Hello. Excuse me. Uh, this video may trigger some of you, and that's not my intent. I really just want to explore something, an idea, a perspective that has come to my awareness, and with all of my life experience and everything I've been taught, and just everything coming to sort of be a part of this little discussion, I guess. I don't know, just this one idea just popped in my head this morning, and I just started thinking deeply about it, and alright, I'll just get into it. So, you know the story of Adam and Eve, right? Those of you who are familiar with the Bible and the story of how God breathed life into Adam and Eve, and after all the creative periods, of the 6 creative periods of building the world and all the animals and plants and everything on it, and then he created man in his own image, and then put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, placed them in a very cushy, beautiful place full of abundance where they had everything they needed, and said, here, this is yours, take care of it, and so yeah, and he only gave them one instruction, right? To just well, he gave them 2 instructions according to what I've been taught. Like, they were told to take care of the garden, which included the animals in it, and and that they were given permission to eat of every tree, right? Except for one tree, which was the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? And so they were told not to eat of that, right? And then we all know that Eve took the fruit from the tree, and then she gave it to Adam, and then they both took the fruit, and then because they were in the story, let's just say in the story, it was the serpent, the serpent representing the devil or whatever, and then that is like, okay, now your eyes are open, now you can see that, oh, I'm naked, I don't have any clothes on, and I can see all my flaws and all the things and everything that I couldn't see before, because I was so innocent before, right? Because what that fruit did was opened your eyes, and now you can see, the imperfections, and you can see, I don't even know if they're imperfections, but now you can see the truth of what maybe you couldn't see before. But I don't know. I feel like it's more of a distorted truth. But I really wish I was a better communicator, because the stuff that's swarming around in my head about all of this is like, there's so many different layers, and I don't know how to even articulate any of it. But I'm seeing much more deeply the possibility of this whole story, and pretty much most of the stories that we've been told, and how they're really, maybe they're metaphors, right? Maybe they're just metaphors for, and maybe they're reflections of, this is the journey that we go through in life. Like, okay, anyway, so then what happens is they get covered in clothing, right? Because it's like, hey, you're naked. I mean, they didn't know they were naked, right? Just like when we're babies, when we come to the earth, we don't know we're naked. We don't care. But somebody at some point tells us we're naked, right? So at some point we come to the realization that, oh, I'm not wearing clothes, and somebody else tells you you need to put clothes on. Okay, so that's just one layer of, you know, what's the symbolism of discovering something that you weren't even aware of, because someone else tells you, hey, this is how we do it. And so then you're like, oh, I need to do it that way. And so then you conform and you do what you're taught. And I think that's what happens to us as we start to you know, grow up, like from those little babies who don't know anything. Along the way, we're given all these different awarenesses, you know, like all these different apples, or apples. I say apples because most of us consider Eve ate an apple or something, but I don't know if it was an apple, but doesn't really matter. But the whole point being that we're taking bites out of, oh, I just got Snow White taking a bite out of the apple, and then she goes to sleep. Interesting. Oh, I wonder if that's like a parallel. Anyway, so we just take bites out of these apples of knowledge that gives us certain awareness, you know, and pretty much is like guiding and shaping our world and our lives and our journey along the way. And oh gosh, this is like, it's just really, it's just all very I just have this sense of being manipulated, like, and I feel like it just feels that way. It just feels like in my existence, in my journey here on this earth, it feels like somebody disturbed my peace. Somebody came in and decided, okay, time for you to see with your physical eyes. Like, because I think before, when our eyes weren't open, our physical eyes were not open because we couldn't see, because that's what the tree of knowledge did, right? Like, it opened their eyes so that now they can see the reality. Well, if they were not awake in the physical reality of the world, the dualistic world of good and evil, if they weren't awake in that good and evil world, and they were existing in paradise, where their eyes were closed. I mean, maybe the third eye is the only eye that they were seeing through. Their spiritual eye was the only eye that they were seeing through at that time, right? Before they took the fruit. And so then, once they started using their physical eyes, then duality started. They started to see good and evil, but like they didn't it wasn't even in their realm of existence before that. They didn't even have and I'm drawing a parallel between, like, I feel like the story of Adam and Eve is really kind of an outline for the journey that we go on in this life, where we start out in the Garden of Eden, like we're these babies that are just like taken care of, and we don't have the awareness of the world, and we're kind of just in our we're kind of just in this different state of awareness during that time in our lives. And but then as we get more awareness, because the people around us and the experiences that we have, they teach us, they shape us, they tell us the good and the bad. They tell us how the world works, right? And so they basically essentially are bringing us into the fallen world. They're bringing us out of the Garden of Eden. Okay, and maybe it's, that's not the intent, obviously, of people who love us and all that. It's not their intent to do us any harm, but and it's not really doing us harm. We're just learning about this reality. But at some point we leave the Garden of Eden and we enter the real world of, we call it the real world, right? But it's I think it's the fake world. I think we enter the illusion, and that we get sucked into the concepts of good and evil, of that duality, and we forget who we really are. We forget that we are divine beings, and that we are like God, right? But we have taken that we've taken that fruit and we have like now using our our physical eyes instead of our spiritual eye, and it's almost like we open these eyes and we close this eye. Yeah. And so then that we feel that separation from God, but then we continually like if you're raised with the belief in God or whatever, we're in a higher being, then you are also taught to look to that higher being as well, and so you're trying to close that gap. You're trying to get back to using your spiritual eye, right? And like so there's this constant battle between the physical, what we see physically in our world, and then what we're trying to see and what we're trying to be. It's almost like it does feel like we're divided within ourselves. Like it feels like there's this tug of war between the physical world and the spiritual world. Both are existence in both realms. Where because we're not just these physical, tangible beings, right? We have a spirit. We have I feel like I'm not doing a very good job of even conveying what is in my yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. All I can hope is that, because I know that when we talk, when people talk, when people express themselves, it can be when other people are listening, the listener can receive unspoken messages and things that maybe I didn't put into words, but like the feelings and the frequency and everything behind what I'm saying, those messages can come through even though I may not use the words that you are actually receiving. So I'm really hoping that the message I'm trying to convey is actually coming through, that it's making sense to some of you, maybe. And also I feel like I just need to, it just feels like I need to like sort through this, and so basically if let's just say that story of Adam and Eve and the creation, all that, let's just say that's like a map of, or it's like a map or something, and all it is just it's like a sketch. It's outlining what this physical life journey is going to be like, right? And so, I mean, we know that, excuse me, we know that Adam and Eve were cast out of the garden, and because they couldn't stay there anymore, because their eyes were open, and it was like, well, now that your eyes are open and you ate the fruit, there's no way you can stay in this state of being, right? And that was us. Like, at some point we reach a state of being where we can no longer be in that same kind of vibration, that the equivalent of the newborn baby stage of innocence, and like just not knowing, and just like trying to just soak it all in. Yeah, we can no longer be in that state, because there's so many experiences that we have where now we see the good and the bad, the duality, and that really happens. I mean, we start to learn that early on, like especially as we start to get mobile and become toddlers, and start to explore our world a little bit independently, as we start crawling and moving around, and then walking and all that. But the real, like, where we're like solid into this physical world of duality, that happens, that's solid. Now we're fully ingrained and like solidly, and we drank the Kool-Aid. Let's just say that we drank the Kool-Aid, right? Well, we drank the Kool-Aid of this reality, okay? And that happens around 7 or 8, because before that, yeah, they call this the formative years, like from birth to 7 or 8, is the formative years, where you're being shaped and you're being molded into what you're going to be like for the rest of your life, right? Pretty much, you get all your programming during those first 7 years, 7, 8 years. I think it's 7. And so it's basically your computer programming that you get from society, from the world, from your people that are around you teaching you, and yeah, all that programming happens, and then pretty much when that's over, it's like it's all gotten downloaded into you, and so now you're running the rest of your life based on the program you got during those first 7 years. And the thing is, most people don't tell you that you can change that programming. And so you keep going off of that original programming that you got, and you keep wondering, well, why is my life not the way I want it to be? Because you may have like a different idea of what you'd like it to be, but no matter how hard you try, you may get a little bit of success, but like no matter how hard you try, your programming, subconscious programming, takes over, and it's running the show. Okay, that's not really where I was going with this, but where was I? So yeah, like the first 7 years, you're like it's like you're in the Garden of Eden. Like you're still kind of in the Garden of Eden, and then you get kicked out, and then like your real life starts. like where you're in this you're in this world where there's good and evil, right? Bad and good, and like now you have to live up to expectations and basically your worth, your self-value, all of that, your value to society and everything. It's almost like you go from being, at some point, you go from being like this, and I'm speaking in a general sense here. It's not true for everybody, because not everybody has like loving family. But let's just say in general, let's say you go from being like loved and supported and without having to meet any expectations, to now, because now your eyes are open and you can see the good and the bad. So now you have to live your life according to rules and laws, and you have to, and if you don't, then there's like prices that you pay, or there's penalties that you pay for, consequences, that you pay for not doing those things. And that can come in many different forms, and especially unfortunately, but I see a lot of withholding of affection and love when children, teenagers, even adults, where they don't meet the standard of what the expectation was. The love that they receive becomes conditional upon whether or not they're playing the game the way that they're supposed to play the game. Like if you're playing by the rules, then you can receive love. If you're not playing by the rules, then you're not worthy of love. Okay? And those are the messages that, whether you believe it or not, those are the messages that kind of trickle down, and yeah. So, but when we were in the garden, there was no condition on the love that we received. We received it, right? It's this world of duality. Once you start playing that game of good and bad, good and evil, once you start putting judgment into the picture, then you start to see, oh my gosh, I'm naked. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of your love, because there's something wrong with me and I need to fix it, right? Or somebody tells you that. I don't know if this is making any sense. Oh gosh, but it's like, it looks to me like a map, like the stories in the Bible are like giving sort of like clues, like as if this whole existence was just a game, and like these are the clues, that you that were left, and like here's how things work. This is how, yeah. And so then you spend, okay, in Adam and Eve story, they they got kicked out of Eden, right? And that's kind of what happens to us. We get kicked out of our cushy existence, and then now we have responsibilities, and not that they didn't have any responsibilities before, but the Garden of Eden was like heaven, and they didn't have it was a different kind of feeling and a different kind of work. It wasn't like the work, like the work that they had to do when they left the garden was working by the sweat of your brow all the days of your life kind of work, and that's what happens, like as you get older, the older you get, there comes that point where now you're like, that's all you're doing. You're just existing. You're just working. You're working so hard. We start this when we go to school, like it's not easy. I don't think it's easy. Like, yeah, I don't know. It just feels very, very much like this journey of life, like where we're in that the part of the story where it's just a grind, right? And I mean, yes, there's some joy that you can get out of it. There's a lot of joy you can get out of it, but like this existence of duality, I mean, I know it is just showing contrast, and it is there to help us so that we can learn lessons. Like, I get that. But like, I don't really see why. I don't think you have to do it this way your whole life. I think that there's a point where you can come back to the spiritual eye, like say, okay, I've had enough of duality, and like I'm gonna, kind of like feel like Jesus taught, like he was trying to teach non-duality. I feel like he was trying to teach how to come back into that version of yourself that is divine, and that how to see with your spiritual eyes, and to not see with your physical eyes. How to see beyond this physical world, and yeah, yeah, I don't know. My whole jumping off point with all of this was just this one idea, this one, of like this question that was asked of Adam and Eve, when they showed up, and they were wearing leaves because it covered their naked bodies, because they had discovered that they were naked, after eating that fruit, and God saying to them, like, well, who told you you were naked, right? Like, who told you that? And then like discovering that they ate the fruit, but also they were told, like, the fruit and the symbolism of the serpent, this Satan, telling them that that they're naked, right? I mean, that's this world that we live in. Everybody telling us that we're naked when we didn't even know we were naked until they told us that, because we were in our own little existence, which was bliss, right? And yeah, it just makes me not want to listen to people, because it's like, what are you telling me? What are you programming my brain with? Yeah, and I realize that some of you just listening to me talk like this right now are probably going, what is she talking about? And maybe she's crazy. And maybe you do. Maybe you will think that about me, but I can't deny the parallels and things that I'm seeing, and how it's feeling in my body, and how I'm feeling very manipulated by everything, in this existence that we are in. I'm feeling very manipulated, and I've been actively taking back my power and trying to, I guess, get back to the garden, right? Get back to the garden where everything feels more like heaven, right? And where I wasn't playing in this realm of duality and judgment and all of that. So yeah, I don't know. This is not easy to even articulate any of this stuff, because it's like I just don't have the language to express any of this, and I feel everything so deeply, but there's no way for me to like really. I always feel this way where I want to be like Spock, you know, in the sense where I can just download everything. I can do a mind meld with you and just like, here's what I'm thinking and feeling in the exact way I'm thinking and feeling it. And so that there's no room for being misunderstood. Okay? And if I could do that with people, if I could do a mind meld or a Spock download kind of thing, where I transferred everything to you that was in my heart, in my head, and in its completeness, if I could just like you do with a what do you call it, a jump drive, right? Where take everything that I'm trying to say in this one document in my internal existence, take that, put it on a little jump drive, and then here you upload it, and then it's like, oh, okay, that's what she's trying to say. I wish I could do that. Because then you would know that I'm not crazy, and you would know the depths of what I'm trying to convey, which is I'm just so limited on my ability to express any of this. I am not gifted in that way of expression, with language. And yeah, and even if I was, authors, really great authors, they get misinterpreted all the time, you know, misunderstood all the time, because we all project our own onto their writings. But see, that's why that Spock download would be like such a good thing, because it would be like spirit to spirit. You know exactly, like there's no distortion of the frequency of what I'm communicating. Okay, so anyway, okay, I'm gonna stop. It's already 40 minutes. Sorry. Why did I say sorry? You're gonna watch this if you want to. There's no apology. I don't need to say sorry. Okay, I'm not gonna say sorry. I'm gonna try to stop doing that, because it's like I'm apologizing for taking up this space and time when I don't need to apologize for that. And you, with your own autonomy, with your own authority, your own agency, you're gonna decide whether or not to watch this video. So yeah, I don't need to apologize. You don't need to apologize either. And yeah, well, I hope you have a good day, and I hope that there was something that this gave to you. Yeah, I don't know. The question I'm going to ask myself, probably keep asking myself, is like, who told me this? And who told me that? And, you know, like compare it with, or ask myself, why do I believe that? Yeah. All right. Bye-bye. Okay, there was one part that, the other instruction that I forgot to talk about. The other instruction that Adam and Eve were given in the garden was to multiply and replenish the earth. So that was the other instruction, besides the taking care of everything, right? Okay, I just want to make sure that I put that in there, because I don't want everyone going, wait a minute, you said two, what were the two things? But anyway, okay, so and essentially maybe there was more like three, so because also they were told not to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Okay, all right, that's it.